I'm not sure if you've seen this clip yet, but I absolutely love it because very few Canadian politicians would have the spine to say what was said here. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre actually called out the voters in the city of Toronto for having sent 100% Liberal MPs into Parliament in the last three election cycles, while society around them is obviously getting worse year after year, both socially and economically. I want to play you the clip right here because this is something that politicians are usually advised not to say, but I think it needs to be said more. And then I'll talk a little bit more about it on the other side.
And now, people who can't pay their rent are forced to go to food banks. 2 million people now going to food banks. 2 million, a record-smashing number. In fact, in Toronto, 1 in 10 people are relying on food banks. The number of people eating at food banks in Toronto today would fill the Rogers Centre 7 times. That is life in Toronto after 8 years of Justin Trudeau winning every single seat in that city. Toronto, what have you got for voting for Justin Trudeau? Your streets are crawling with crime and chaos. You can't afford the rent. There's division like never before in our streets. Places of worship are under attack. People who've lived there all their lives no longer feel at home. The big cities that voted for Justin Trudeau are suffering the most because of his disastrous and costly policies. You know, look at the crime. Violent crime is up 40%. The number of overdose deaths is up 200%. 40,000 Canadians have lost their lives to overdoses after 8 years of Justin Trudeau's policy of decriminalizing crack and heroin and giving out tax-subsidized opioids that have heroin-level potency.
Absolutely amazing clip. I think it needed to be said. Right before I get into it a little bit more, I just want to quickly mention that I, Wyatt Claypool, am running for the Calgary Signal Hill Conservative Party nomination. So if you live in this area, except for the Greenbrier and Bowness areas because they're being cut out when boundaries change in April, buy a Conservative Party membership and vote for me. My campaign website is in the description below, wyattclaypool.com. But anyways, getting back to it. No advisor would ever tell you to blame the voters for making a bad choice, but I frankly think that Poilievre actually has to say this to Toronto voters. What can you lose? They vote 100% Liberal in terms of the people they sent to Parliament, and eventually they need to be told that the people that you're choosing are not the compassionate choice. You get a lot of people who vote Liberal, especially in the big city areas like Toronto, who aren't voting Liberal because they actually think they're economically better for the country. Anyone with eyes can tell you that they've been horrible for our economy. They vote Liberal because it's like the compassionate choice. It's the empathetic choice. It makes the choice that makes you feel smarter. There's a reason why people with, university, like bachelor degrees and master's degrees tend to disproportionately vote Liberal. It's not because it's the smarter choice, but it's the choice that makes you feel smarter. They tend to be very wonkish on policy. They're very detailed. They're very much, big public policy fans. They like big, detailed public policy plans, and it makes the party seem like it's very intelligent. When a more simplistic approach to all these issues that the Conservatives tend to pitch is actually the better, smarter position. But a lot of Liberal voters are looking for the voting option that gives them social status. The Liberals tend to have that Laurentian elitist status to them. And so they get a lot of voters in the city of Toronto who vote Liberal because it's fashionable to vote Liberal. You look like an intelligent moderate, even as the party keeps getting more and more left-wing. And Poilievre should be calling them out, saying, no, you're not voting for the more compassionate, more empathetic, more, fashionable option. You're actually voting for the option that's stagnating your society, increasing crime, increasing drug use, increasing taxes on people, and driving people into poverty. You're not voting for the right option. It's not just that every voter comes to different conclusions and all those conclusions are equally good. No, you can vote the wrong way. That's why I'm not someone who exactly, and I'm going to say this, and I know there's some people who left-wingers who are going to say that I'm saying something I'm not, but people tend to overly idealize democracy. Democracy is the best system that we have. but it doesn't mean that every single thing that people democratically vote for is good. But people act like, well, it was popular at the ballot box, ergo it's the right policy that you should support. A lot of liberal policies people technically voted for at the ballot box. It doesn't mean that we should keep it around. And just because, like, when the liberals get voted in, that doesn't mean that we should maintain the policies in the past that used to be popular just because maybe they're going to get some pushback. They need to start doing deep guts of government programs and reform things heavily. Things have gotten really bad, and it's not that the liberals were on the right track because they kept getting voted in election after election. We just need to tweak it here and there in order to fix things. Things were bad since 2015 when Trudeau got into office. He had immediately been making it bad, and we shouldn't pretend that it's not bad. We should actually go after the voters who continue to, in a certain sense, be blind voluntarily. They pretend that the issues aren't there, and they pretend like, oh, the crime and poverty and all this, that's because of big business and corporations. Oh, it's because of capitalism this is happening. No, it's actually because of your socialist policies it's happening, and you kind of have to have your face stuck in it a little bit. Anyways, I really like this. Politicians need to grow a spine and actually say sometimes that the voters got it wrong. If you have a bad impression of Danielle Smith in Alberta because you think she's far right, you're wrong. You're a fool. If you think that, like, if you think that somehow safe supply programs are good because it's keeping people from overdosing, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Giving people more drugs and keeping them on the streets, this sort of pro-homeless encampment type faction on the left, they're not more compassionate. They don't have sort of just a different perspective. They have an awful perspective. Frankly, sometimes their perspective is just flat out evil. Even if they think they're a good person for doing it, they have eyes and ears, and they should be able to figure out their policies are destroying people's lives and making society worse. You don't just act like everyone's on the same team and we're all trying to drive towards a better future. Some people will drive us into a worse future and they'll smile all the way. Yes, they think it's better, but it doesn't mean that we should respect their opinion. You actually have to push back on people and tell them they're wrong sometimes. Anyways, that should be it for me today. And I just want to, again, quickly plug that Wyatt Claypool, am running for the Calgary Signal Hill Conservative Party nomination. It's a really packed race. There's tons of people running here, a lot of people who do not live in the riding, a ton of red Tories who, other than saying they want to get rid of the carbon tax, are completely mum on most of the issues. I don't think we need more of these Aaron O'Toole types getting into conservative nominations. We actually need more real blue conservatives in the party. So if you live in this riding, buy a membership, vote for me. If you live in Burlington, I think the membership cutoff's already done. So if you have a membership, though, vote for Emily Brown. Great candidate. And in the future, I will recommend more candidates in other nominations. Maybe I'll even do just a full-on live stream just talking about good candidates and nominations around you. If you can shout out which riding you live in and who's running there, I can look at their websites and get a feel for who is probably the candidate who will actually pursue deep reforms in government. And then other than that, also, I have the Give, Send, Go fundraiser for myself and the National Telegraph's legal fund. We have a Chinese billionaire suing us. Completely ridiculous defamation case. We had a guest writer call him out for funding Aaron O'Toole's campaign back in 2020. He freaked out because our guest writer said some true things about him based off a Globe and Mail article that was already out 2 years ago. But he sued us because he thought we couldn't pay to defend ourselves and that he could get a fake apology out of us and pretend that he's some sort of powerful political manipulator. I don't really care, but if you want to throw some money at us, it helps us fight back. It helps us be able to take the burden of cost off myself and help spread it out a little bit. Everyone who's donated so far has been an absolute star, but more donations are needed since, obviously I'm not someone who has hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw at this case. So any money actually does keep the burden off of me. So other than that, that should be it for me today, and I'll be back with another video later on.